I'm Eric Huang. I'm the chef owner of Pecking House. Today I'm going to show you how to make our chili fried chicken.
The hardest to get fried chicken in New York City.
It's hot, it's spicy, it's a little bit sweet, and it has that nice, beautiful, crunchy, kind of southern buttermilk crust to it.
I thought I would be the one struggling. You're struggling.
My so-called signature dish.
It's absolutely delicious.
Let's do it. Okay, so we're going to take you through every detail of how we make our chili fried chicken. We're going to make our chili oil. All right, we make it from scratch at the restaurant, so you have to also. And then I'm going to show you how we fry our chicken and our special mix of starches that makes it really crunchy, really crispy. You can think of it as Nashville hot chicken and Taiwanese fried chicken got married. So we're gonna make our dried chili mix, which will eventually become our chili oil. We have our Tianjin chilies. And this is a very versatile chili. It has very grassy vegetal aroma. And we toast it mainly to drive off the moisture and just bring out a little bit of that roasted flavor. And then here we have Sichuan peppercorn. If you've never had them before, they create a very interesting sensation called mala. It will numb your lips, your tongue. It can be a little bit alarming for those who've never done it before. So we're gonna take our Tianjin chili, spread them out on our sheet tray here. So I like to toast them in an oven, and we're looking to just drive off a lot of the moisture so that it has a little bit of a light roasted aroma and it'll snap in your fingers. So while our chilies are toasting, we're gonna toast our Sichuan peppercorns. These are really great as is. They have a lot of citrus floral aromas. We don't wanna destroy that, but we're just going to give them a light toast so that we bring out the essential oils a little bit more. Just on medium heat. There are fresh Sichuan peppercorns. It's pretty difficult to find. Pretty uncommon unless you're at a really traditional Sichuan restaurant. After that, you can get dried green peppercorns, and then the most common being dried red peppercorns. Those are gonna be the most numbing, the most floral, and the most citrusy, but they do get quite pricey. It smells very citrusy. Don't want to add any color to the peppercorns, and then we're pretty much ready to go. All right. Toasting these for about 4 minutes so far. You can see the color is starting to brown a little bit. We don't want to get too much farther than that, so we'll just mix it up to get the other side and drive off some more of the moisture. There's a little bit of browning and roasting on top. That's as far as we want to take it. We're going to let these cool down, and we're going to blend them. All right, so now we're gonna grind all our chilies and Sichuan peppercorns to make our chili mix. This is going to throw a lot of capsaicin into the air. Make sure the lid is very well secured before you open the top. Do not put your face near the blender. You will have a bad time. A little bit of that smoke coming off. That's how you have a bad day. Respect the blender. Just looking for a fine powder. It needs to be nice and uniform. We'll have an even coating for our chicken. And then we're gonna add a bunch of seasonings to it. Salt, obviously. Sugar. It helps balance a lot of the umami and salty notes. The almighty MSG. Obviously a lot of misinformation going around about MSG. Just know that billions of people eat MSG every day, and some of them are deeply in the blue zones where they live forever. This is a fun little ingredient. This is rice vinegar powder. Kind of a niche ingredient. It has some tapioca maltodextrin in it, which will help thicken our oil a little bit later, give it viscosity so that it clings to our chicken. Carefully whisk everything together, and then unfortunately, we are going to have to taste this. To adjust for seasoning, sometimes it needs a little more salt, sometimes it needs a little sugar, sometimes a little more vinegar powder. Just a little bit. You really don't need a lot. Don't eat more than that. It's gonna hurt like crazy. It's not terribly pleasant on its own, but it's important to know where the acidity and the sugar's at. I think it's good. You're looking for the sugar and the vinegar to be well balanced. That's probably the hardest part, and what most often needs a little bit of fine tuning. If it tastes overly acidic now to you, that's probably correct. Because later when you mix it with all the fat, it's going to be nicely balanced. And obviously it needs a little salinity too. You should be tasting the chilies. There's kind of like smoky, grassy, vegetal aroma. So now we're going to make our chili oil. We have this dry chili mix we made earlier, has the Sichuan peppercorns and all the seasonings inside, and now we're going to mix it with fat. Duck fat makes all fried foods taste better. It does bring an aroma, a meatiness, and a savoriness that is really, really enjoyable. So we blend it with canola oil, just to add a little bit of it. It would be a little too rich if you did it only duck fat. So we're just gonna warm it up here at 120 F. If your duck fat is solid, this is an important time to do that. Chili oil here. You're gonna need a whisk. There's a little bit of tapioca maltodextrin in the rice vinegar powder, which is going to give the chili oil some viscosity. This is going to make more than you need for one chicken. Keeps forever. You also don't want it too hot because that's gonna make it too thin. Just warm or just above room temperature. It has a little bit of thickness so that it's going to cling to the crust, but it's also going to run off. So you're looking for something just like that, kind of like warm ganache or like a rich demi-glace or something like that. So here's how we break down a chicken into a 10-piece country cut. First things first, we're gonna have the chicken with the cavity facing towards us, and we're gonna have the legs here. We're gonna make 2 incisions in between the leg and the breastbone. And then we're gonna pop the thigh bones out of the socket. If you pull the thigh towards the spine a little bit, you're gonna see that the oyster pops out a little bit, and it's gonna help guide you. So we're gonna move the knife around it and then cut down the spine to free the leg. So got that little oyster popped up. You can just pull away a little bit. So now we're going to remove the spine. I want to keep as much of the rib cage on the breast as possible. Again, the skin on the breast is very delicate. It's very likely to fall off when you're deep frying if you're not careful. So keeping a bit of the rib cage here on the back towards the spine will help anchor the skin to the spine. I like to make an incision along the breast. And then again, this is the rib cage here, and the same on the other side. I'm going to keep the knife as far away as possible to keep the rib cage intact. So I'm going to cut downwards a little bit and then pull back. That's going to expose the wishbone, the clavicle bone, and the neck. So then I just take the tip of the knife, punk downwards, same on the other side, and then that should free us with a chicken back, which is obviously great for stock. That's what we do with it in the restaurant. We turn it to bone broth. We're going to remove the wings. The wing is pretty straightforward. There's a small articulation at the shoulder that we want to work around. You don't want to cut too deep into the breast. You just want to cut just around that. Same on the other side. And then this is the breast piece. So we just want to be really delicate here. It's helpful and important to have a sharp knife at this point. And in between here is going to be the keel bone where we're going to split the bird in half. So I keep the skin down on the board and just gently pull the knife back. And then you're going to have 2 chicken breasts. So you can't cut it directly in half because then one piece is going to be way larger than the other. It's going to cook unevenly. So I like to say we cut it on the 40-yard line on a bias through the rib cage. So I just make a little incision first. Again, we're protecting the skin, and then push down. Then you have 2 more equal pieces. Then we have our 2 wings, and then finally we're gonna cut our legs at the articulation of the knee. So I like to just go right here at the joint, and if you get there, if you get right in between the cartilage, you don't really need any pressure at all. It'll cut right through. That is our drumstick, our thigh. Then we do the same on the other end. So here we have our 10-piece country cut, 2 thighs, 2 drums, 4 breast pieces with beautiful skin on them, and 2 wings. So this is kind of the fun part of the chicken. This is very much the country southern cooking. We're gonna make a slurry first. The slurry itself, when we mix it here first, that will minimize the amount of handling we need to do later. We always want to protect the skin when we're making fried chicken. The second part is adding a little bit of flour to this stage. This hydrates the gluten, allows it to kind of form a stronger lattice for the dredge to adhere to later. Buttermilk, salt, sugar, MSG again. 5-spice powder, really pivotal, foundational seasoning. A lot of kind of the fun influence here, why we always say it's Chinese fried chicken and Southern fried chicken had a baby. We got onion powder, garlic powder, and then we got Dijon mustard. And it just adds a lot of savoriness and a lot of really nice flavors. So we're gonna whisk that part up, and then we're going to add our flour. You just need enough to make a little bit of a light paste. Once everything's uniform, we're going to drop in our chicken. The skin on the breast is the hardest part to keep all together and to form your nice, beautiful crust later. So in the restaurant, we separate the marinating process for white meat and dark meat. The dark meat's a lot more forgiving. The skin's not gonna come off a drumstick unless you really pull it off. But don't worry too much about it at home. Just be delicate when you're mixing everything together. Because we've added the flour, it's quite thick. It almost looks like a yogurt marinade. So in a perfect world, we're gonna let this marinate. You would do this for at least 12 hours, 6 if you don't got time, but you could really fry it right now. It'd still be pretty delicious. The biggest difference you're gonna notice is with the textural component. After 12 hours, the buttermilk will really have time to do its magic. It'll be very tender, very juicy. Will be going for its little overnight nap. All right, so now we're going to make our dredge. Kind of growing up Chinese American, this this intersection of Eastern and Western culture. The dredge very much does also. We don't put seasoning in our dredge. We put salt, sugar, MSG, but we don't put any onion powder, garlic powder, etc. Because we think there's a ton of flavor in the chili oil as is. It would get lost anyhow. But the fun thing about this is we're using pure starches and flour as well, which kind of represents a lot of the way we cook in Eastern cuisines versus Western cuisines. And we're also going to use a fun product called Evercrisp. Beginning of this dish was a long-range delivery model, so we had to figure out a way to keep the chicken crispy for as long as possible. Evercrisp really does a great job of that. It is a pure starch without gluten in it. What it does is immobilizes water. It prevents steaming that would create condensation. Obviously, steaming still does happen, but it helps to immobilize it so that the crust stays crispy as possible. Okay, all-purpose flour has just the right amount of gluten for us. Cornstarch, salt, sugar, MSG, and our Evercrisp. The nice thing about adding flour to the marinade stage is that we have some flour there that has already been hydrated. It's going to form a really nice lattice for all this dredge to adhere to. So here, it is in our best interest to move as quickly as possible. So we're going to wipe off the excess marinade, we're going to go into the dredge, and then we're going to go directly into the fryer. We're going to start at 350 Fahrenheit, but because it's a smaller pot and you're adding cold chicken to it, we're going to start at 350 because it will drop to 325. When you're cooking at home in these kind of smaller pots, you want to be moving the chicken from time to time. But because here the heating element is on the bottom and it's such a small pot, the chicken will sink to the bottom and will burn if you don't constantly kind of move it around. So just keep that in mind. We're going to fry like pieces with like. So I'm going to do all the breasts together first because those all cook at the same time, then all the wings, then all the dark meat. Keep an eye on it, show it a lot of love. It's a lot of details, it's a lot of steps, but it's all worthwhile. All right, we're going to start off with the breasts here, smooth out the skin a little bit, and we'll have a nice crust with it. We'll go skin side down, wiping off some of the excess marinade, otherwise the crust is going to slip later. Okay, so we're in the dredge and we're going to move directly into the oil once we're all covered up here. Sometimes there's little naked spots. You got to be sure to get all those. We want every bit covered. We're shaking off the excess and we're going right in. You can put the bone side facing downwards to the bottom of the pot, preventing it to burn. So this is going to be the first of 2 fries. All right, we've dropped down to 325 and we will hold it there with our handy dandy induction burner. And we're going to cook it for 7 minutes for breast pieces. Obviously all the pieces cook at different times, but 7 minutes at 325 with breast pieces, you're looking to register above 155F at the point nearest to the bone. That'll make sure it's really juicy, and then we're going to rest it before frying it a second time. First cook, we're just focusing on getting the chicken cooked to the proper temperature, and then it'll rest. If you did it right, there's lots of crispity craggities. The breast piece, we're going to temp it as close as possible to the bone. Doing great here. You just want to be above 155. We're doing great. And then we're going to let it rest. You want to kind of have the chance to have the temperature even out all the way and distribute evenly throughout the entire piece of protein, and to allow the juices to relax to some degree. And then when you fry it the second time, then you're really just focusing on getting the crust super crispy. So we'll go in with our next round of chicken. Just kind of making sure nothing's burning. Ideally, they would rest for at least 10 minutes, but honestly, you could do this the night before if you really wanted to. So we're gonna do our second fry just for 3 minutes. Be delicate. We worked really hard to make this crust beautiful. So this is the ultimate step. I need a chili oil whisker. You got it. Redistribute all the solids.
Moment of truth.
Make sure it's like a beautiful viscosity. And then we're going to dunk.
Even just whisking, I'm getting all the aromas from the Sichuan peppercorns, getting the chilies in there. If you wanted to cut it down, you could just brush it on it.
That's actually how we originally did it, but then we got quite busy, so we started dunking.
That viscosity really does seem to be key. It adheres to the chicken, but it's not thick glaze or anything. And it kind of really shows off how the craggly crust that you were talking about too. It's like in all those nooks and crannies.
Cheers it up.
Cheers.
Ooh, what's hot?
So juicy.
It's good.
So good. There is some sweetness that comes through. I can't believe how juicy this is. Look at that, come on. So this recipe you can find it on ChefSteps.com along with great recipes from Eric here. We've got everything on the science of fried chicken, tons of other fried chicken recipes. Go to ChefSteps.com, check it out.